You know, the Bible tells us that whatever we do it as unto the Lord. And that goes for husbands as well. You know, we ought to treat our wives even as the Lord has instructed us to treat our wives. You know, in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 23, the Bible says that the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church. And fellas, we get stuck right there and we take that to mean, see, woman, you go do what I told you to do. It's my way with no highway option. Everybody got to do what I say. You come in there with all this brute force. But you have to understand that being the head also means being the leader, being the example of how to be, how to live. So you ought to show forth how it is to love your wife, how to be kind, how to be gentle, how to be temperate, how to be balanced in your life, right? But don't get stuck just there in verse number 23. Come on, fellas, keep reading. In verse number 25, it says that husbands ought to give themselves for their wives, even as Christ gave himself for the church. Well, how did he display his giving of himself to the church? He died for the church. So husbands, we ought to display dying to our wives. That means that sometimes you ought to display and put aside playing a video game in that moment, or watching the game, or going out and doing whatever hobby it is that you want to do in that moment when your wife is like, I need you to come with me to the store, or I need you in this moment. I need your hug. I need your affection. So you have to die to yourselves in that moment again, even as Christ gave himself for the church. Are you willing to give yourself for your wife? You said you were when you stood at that altar and said, I do. Maybe you didn't understand what you were doing, but when you gave yourself, when you made those vows, you're giving of yourself to your wife. So when she's asking you, I need you to do this, be willing to turn away from what you want to do in that moment. And don't do it with a grudging heart, but do it out of love and affection, saying, no, I'm giving for my wife. I love you, and I want to show you how passionate I am for you, and how I want to give of myself to you. We got to be willing to do that, fellas, and it is in those moments that we will see the appropriate response from our wives and from our household.